The lights in the research lab flickered as Tai Min stared at the ancient tablet in his hands. The symbols carved into the dark metal seemed to shift and move in the dim light, like living things trying to escape from their stone prison. He had been studying alien artifacts for 3 years aboard the research ship Harmony's Edge, but nothing had prepared him for this discovery. "You look like you've seen a ghost," Hyejin said as she walked into the lab. The tactical officer's boots clicked on the metal floor as she approached his workstation. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight ponytail, and her uniform was as neat as always, but her eyes showed concern for her friend. Taemin looked up from the tablet, his face pale. "Maybe I have. Hyejin, you need to see this. But first, promise me you won't tell anyone else about it." Hyejin raised an eyebrow. In all the time she had known Taemin, he had never asked her to keep secrets about his work. The young scientist was usually eager to share every small discovery with anyone who would listen. "What did you find?" she asked, pulling up a chair. Beside him, Taemin activated his computer screen and pulled up a series of files. "I was trying to translate these symbols when I accidentally accessed a restricted database. Look at this." The screen showed a map of the galaxy with thousands of glowing dots connected by bright lines. It looked like a vast web spanning across space, with each dot representing a world and each line showing a connection between them. "The gate network," Hyejin breathed. Everyone in the galaxy knew about the gates. They were massive ring-shaped structures that allowed instant travel between star systems. The Galactic Consortium had built their entire civilization around them. "Yes, but look at this one." Taemin pointed to a dot at the edge of the map. Unlike the others, this one was colored red and had no lines connecting it to anything else. "It's called the Forbidden Gate." Hyejin leaned closer to read the text beside the red dot. The words were in the old Consortium language, but her translation, implant, converted them automatically. "Danger. Do not approach. Species termination protocols authorized." "That's not the scary part," Taemin said. He opened another file, and both of them fell silent as they read. The document was a historical record dating back thousands of years. It told the story of the most powerful races in the galaxy, each one trying to unlock the secrets of the Forbidden Gate. The crystal beings called the Veltar had sent their greatest scientists. They never returned. The energy creatures known as the Nephilim had sent an entire fleet. It vanished without a trace. The machine collective called the Apex had tried to force the gate open with their most advanced technology. Their entire expedition was found floating in space, their mechanical bodies twisted into impossible shapes. "Every major species has tried," Taemin whispered. "All of them failed. Most of them died." Hyejin scrolled through the files, her frown deepening. "But why is this classified? Everyone knows the Consortium doesn't talk about the Forbidden Gate, but I didn't know they were actively hiding information about it." "Keep reading," Taemin said. The next document made Hyejin's blood run cold. It was a monitoring report from something called the Primitive Worlds Observation Project. The report was about a small blue planet in a distant corner of the galaxy, a world called Earth. "They've been watching humans?" Hyejin asked. "For over 2,000 Earth years," Taemin confirmed. But look at the recent entries. The latest reports were different from the older ones. Instead of simple observation notes about human development, they contained detailed analysis of human behavior, psychology, and what the reports called adaptive responses to impossible situations. One report caught Hyejin's attention. Test. Subjects continue to display unusual reactions to hopeless scenarios. Instead of accepting defeat or seeking logical solutions, they often attempt increasingly desperate and illogical actions until they succeed or die. This behavior pattern is unique among known species. Another report was even more disturbing. Recommend immediate escalation to council level. The Forbidden Gate has begun responding to transmissions from the Sol system. After 50,000 years of silence, the gate is active. Taemin and Hyejin looked at each other in shock. "The Forbidden Gate is responding to Earth?" Hyejin asked. "That's not all," Taemin said. He opened one final file. This one was marked with the highest level of security clearance, far above what a junior researcher should have been able to access. "Look at this." The document was a recommendation from the Consortium's Science Council to their ruling body. It was dated only 3 days ago. After extensive analysis of species 7834, designation humans, we recommend immediate contact and testing protocols. While primitive by consortium standards, this species exhibits unique psychological traits that may allow them to succeed where others have failed. Their natural tendency toward reckless behavior, combined with their ability to adapt to impossible circumstances, makes them ideal candidates for Forbidden Gate exploration. The document continued. Unlike other species, humans do not appear to be limited by logical thinking when facing unknown threats. They often act in ways that should result in their destruction, but instead lead to unexpected success. This controlled madness may be the key to unlocking the secrets beyond the Forbidden Gate. Hai-Jin sat back in her chair, trying to process what she had read. They want to use humans as test subjects, to send them through a gate that has killed every other species that tried to open it. It gets worse, Tae-min said. I found transmission logs. The consortium has already sent first contact messages to Earth. They're planning to make an offer that humans can't refuse. Before Hai-Jin could respond, the ship's communication system crackled to life. The voice of Captain Kang Dae echoed through the corridors. All crew to emergency stations. We have received priority orders from Consortium Command. We are to proceed immediately to the Sol system for first contact operations. Tae-min and Hai-Jin stared at each other in horror. Have to warn them, Hee-Jin whispered. Warn who? Tae-min asked. The humans? They don't even know we exist yet. And even if we could contact them, what would we tell them? That their only hope of survival is to do something that has killed everyone else who tried it. Through the small window of the research lab, they could see other consortium ships joining their fleet. Massive vessels from dozens of different species, all heading toward a small blue world whose inhabitants had no idea that their entire future was about to change forever. The Forbidden Gate waited at the edge of known space, silent and deadly, ready to claim another species. But this time the consortium was betting everything on the strange, illogical creatures called humans. The Watchers had become the Watched, and neither side knew what was coming. Admiral Kyung-ho was drinking his morning coffee when the universe changed forever. He stood on the bridge of the Terran Defense Fleet flagship New Sol, watching the familiar dance of Jupiter's moons through the main view screen. It was supposed to be a routine patrol, the kind of boring mission that let him catch up on paperwork while his crew ran training exercises. Then the communications officer, Lieutenant Park, turned around with a face as white as paper. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission on all frequencies, Park said, his voice shaking. It's not from Earth, sir. It's not from anywhere in our solar system. Kyung-ho set down his coffee cup and walked over to the communication station. Show me. The main screen flickered and then displayed something impossible. The image was crystal clear, showing a being that looked almost human but not quite. Its skin was pale blue and seemed to glow with its own light. Its eyes were larger than human eyes, and when it spoke, its voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Greetings, people of Earth, the being said in perfect English. Your species has been selected for evaluation. Prepare for contact. The message lasted only 30 seconds, but it repeated on every radio frequency, every television channel, and every internet connection on Earth. Within minutes, the entire planet knew that humanity was no longer alone in the universe. Kyung-ho grabbed the nearest communication device. Get me President Kim immediately, and contact Dr. Soo-young at the Seoul Science Institute. We're going to need her. 3 hours later, massive shapes began to appear in the sky above Earth's major cities. The ships were unlike anything humans had ever imagined. They looked like floating mountains made of crystal and metal, each one the size of a small city. They moved without sound, casting shadows that covered entire districts. Dr. Soo-young arrived at the Emergency Command Center in New York just as the largest alien ship positioned itself above Manhattan. She was Earth's leading physicist, a woman who had spent her career studying the theoretical possibilities of faster-than-light travel and dimensional physics. Now she was facing proof that her wildest theories were reality. Have they made any hostile moves? She asked Admiral Harrison, the American military commander who was coordinating Earth's response. Nothing we can detect, Harrison replied. They're just sitting there, waiting. Waiting for what? Before anyone could answer, Every screen in the command center lit up with the same blue-skinned alien from the earlier transmission. But this time, the message was different. "We are representatives of the Galactic Consortium," the being said. "We come not as conquerors, but as evaluators. Your species will be tested. If you prove worthy, you will join our civilization among the stars. If you fail, your world will be protected from the dangers of the galaxy, but you will never leave this system." The alien paused, and for a moment, its perfect composure seemed to crack slightly. "The test is simple. You must enter what we call the Forbidden Gate and return with proof of what lies beyond. Many species have attempted this task. None have succeeded." The transmission ended, leaving the command center in stunned silence. Dr. Su Young was the first to speak. "They want us to go through something called the Forbidden Gate? What's on the other side?" "Unknown," came a new voice. Everyone turned to see a tall, elegant figure materializing in the center of the room. The alien was even more impressive in person, standing nearly 8 feet tall with flowing robes that seemed to be made of living light. "I am Ambassador Velkana of the Consortium," the being said. "I am here to answer your questions and prepare you for the test." Captain Ji-hoon, Earth's most decorated military officer, stepped forward. He had fought in 3 wars and faced death more times than he could count. But something about this alien made his skin crawl. "Why us?" Ji-hoon asked. "If your advanced civilization can't handle whatever's beyond this gate, what makes you think primitive humans can?" Velkana's large eyes seemed to study Ji-hoon with intense interest. "Because you are the only species the gate has not rejected." The room fell silent again. "What do you mean, rejected?" Dr. Su Young asked. "The Forbidden Gate is not simply a doorway," Velkana explained. "It is alive, in a sense. It chooses who may pass through. For 50,000 years, it has remained sealed. Every species that has approached it has been turned away, destroyed, or driven mad by what they found." The alien began to pace, its movements graceful despite its height. 3 days ago, for the first time in millennia, the gate responded to a signal coming from your world." "What kind of signal?" Dr. Su Young pressed. "We do not know, but the gate has begun to open. And according to our instruments, it will only open for beings from this world." Admiral Kyung-ho had been listening in silence, but now he spoke up. "You're using us as test subjects. You want us to go through this gate because you're too afraid to do it yourselves." Velkana's expression didn't change, but something in its voice became colder. "Fear is a luxury your species cannot afford. The gate is opening whether we wish it or not. Whatever lies beyond has remained sealed for good reason. If it is released without proper preparation, it could destroy not just Earth, but every world in the galaxy." "And if we refuse?" Ji-hoon asked. "Then we will seal your solar system behind an energy barrier and wait for the inevitable. When the gate fully opens, whatever emerges will find Earth first." The implications hit everyone in the room at the same time. Humanity wasn't being offered a choice. They were being given an ultimatum disguised as an opportunity. Dr. Su Young looked around at the military commanders and government officials surrounding her. These were some of the most powerful people on Earth, and they all looked terrified. But as she studied their faces more carefully, she saw something else. Behind the fear, behind the shock of learning they weren't alone in the universe, she saw something that made her smile. They were curious. Captain Ji-hoon was already asking questions about the gate's construction. Admiral Kyung-ho wanted to know about the alien ships and their technology. Even the politicians were wondering what kind of civilization they might be joining. Humans, Dr. Su Young realized, might be the only species crazy enough to see a deadly test as an adventure. "How long do we have to prepare?" she asked Velkana. 7 of your days. 7 days to select a team, build the necessary equipment, and prepare for a mission that had killed every other species that attempted it. 7 days to get ready to enter a place so dangerous that an advanced galactic civilization was afraid to go near it. Dr. Su Young looked at the alien ambassador and grinned. "We'll need a bigger ship." Commander Yeon Seo stood in the middle of what used to be a military training facility in Colorado. Now it looked more like a construction site run by people who had too much coffee and not enough sleep. Sparks flew from welding torches, computers, hummed with constant activity, and dozens of Earth's best and brightest worked around the clock to prepare for the impossible. She had been chosen to lead Earth's Gate exploration team, and every day she wondered if the selection committee had made a mistake. Not because she wasn't qualified, but because every day brought new proof that humans were completely insane. "Commander, you need to see this," called Engineer Dongwu from across the room. He was standing next to what looked like a normal spacesuit that had been attacked by a mad scientist. Extra armor plating covered the chest and back, strange devices were attached to the helmet, and the arms ended in mechanical hands that looked like they could crush steel. "What am I looking at, Dongwu?" Yonseo asked as she walked over. "Version 12 of the exploration suit," he said with pride. "I added extra shielding, backup life support, emergency thrusters, a small fusion reactor, and a coffee maker." "A coffee maker?" "You never know how long we'll be stuck on the other side," Dongwu explained as if this was perfectly reasonable. "Plus, I figured if we're going to die, we might as well be caffeinated." Yonseo shook her head and moved on. To the next station, where pilot Mina was studying three-dimensional maps of the gate structure. "Any progress on flight patterns?" Yonseo asked. Mina looked up with bright eyes. "I've been thinking about that. The alien data shows that previous expeditions approached the gate using standard defensive formations. They stayed together, moved slowly, tried to minimize risk. That sounds reasonable." "Right, but it didn't work," Mina said, grinning. "So I was thinking we should do the opposite. Split up, move fast, take the most dangerous route possible." "That sounds like suicide?" "Exactly. But think about it. If the careful approach gets you killed, maybe the crazy approach will keep you alive." Before Yonseo could explain why that logic was terrifying, she was interrupted by loud laughter from the other side of the facility. She turned to see Dr. Chan Young entertaining a group of technicians with what appeared to be a comedy routine about alien anatomy. And then the Veltar representative said, "We require maximum caution and extensive planning," Chan Young was saying in a high-pitched voice. So I told him, "Look, buddy, we're the species that invented bungee jumping and reality TV. Planning is just an excuse for not doing something fun." The technicians burst into laughter. One of them, a young woman named Specialist Yunhai, was laughing so hard she had tears in her eyes. Yonseo walked over to break up the party, but before she could say anything, Chan Young spotted her and waved her over. "Commander, perfect timing. I was just explaining to everyone why we're going to succeed where everyone else failed." "This should be interesting," Yonseo said. "It's simple," Chan Young said, his voice becoming more serious. "Every other species approached the gate like it was a problem to be solved. They brought their best scientists, their most advanced technology, their most careful plans." He paused for dramatic effect. "But what if it's not a problem to be solved? What if it's an experience to be survived?" Yunhai nodded enthusiastically. "Like when I went skydiving last year. I didn't solve skydiving, I just jumped out of the plane and figured it out on the way down." "Exactly," Chan Young said. "Look, either we'll discover something amazing, or we'll die trying. Either way, we'll make history." Yonseo was beginning to understand why the consortium observers looked so worried every time they visited the facility. The aliens came by every day to check on human progress. They arrived in small shuttles, wearing protective suits that made them look like they were visiting a plague planet. They watched the humans work with expressions that Yonseo had learned to recognize as a mixture of fascination and horror. Today's observer was a tall, crystalline being called Veltarian scientist Kexandor. It stood in the corner of the facility, taking notes on a device that looked like liquid metal. "Commander Yonseo," Kexandor said, in a voice like breaking glass, "I must express concern about your team's preparation methods." "What's wrong with our methods?" Kexandor gestured toward where technician Hyun-Soo was jury-rigging alien technology to a human computer. "Your species treats this mission as if it were entertainment." "We're taking it seriously," Yonseo protested. "Your engineer just asked me if we had any cooler weapons he could borrow for the mission." Dongwu asks everyone that question. It's not personal. "Your pilot requested the most dangerous possible route through the gate because it would be more fun. Mina has a unique approach to risk management. Your scientist told our cultural attaché that humans invented a sport called extreme ironing, just to prove they could do something completely pointless in dangerous places. Yonseo had no answer for that one. Kexandor's crystalline form seemed to dim with worry. Commander, my people have studied the gate for 10,000 years. We have sent our greatest minds, our most advanced warriors, our most sophisticated artificial intelligences. All of them failed. I understand that. Do you? Do you truly comprehend that this mission will almost certainly result in your death, and the deaths of everyone on your team? Yonseo looked around the facility. She saw Dongwu adding yet another unnecessary feature to his suit design. She saw Mina practicing dangerous flight maneuvers on a simulator while laughing at her own near crashes. She saw Chan Young and Yunhai placing bets on what they would find beyond the gate. She saw her team and they looked happy. Kexandor, she said finally, can I ask you something? Of course. When your people prepared for the gate mission, how did they feel? The alien paused, its crystalline structure flickering with different colors. They were apprehensive, concerned. They knew they were likely going to their deaths. And they went anyway? Yes. It was their duty. Yonseo nodded toward her team. Look at them. Really look. Kexandor turned its attention to the humans, working throughout the facility. They know they're probably going to die, Yonseo continued. They know this mission is impossible. They know that every other species has failed. Yes. And they're having the time of their lives. Kexandor stood in silence for a long moment, watching the humans work. Finally, it spoke. Your species is either very brave or very foolish, Yonseo grinned. Why not both? As if to prove her point, Dongwu chose that moment to test his suit's new coffee maker. The machine exploded in a shower of sparks and hot liquid. Instead of being concerned, Dongwu just laughed and started rebuilding it. Version 13 will definitely work better, he called out cheerfully. Kexandor's form flickered with colors that Yonseo had never seen before. She suspected they indicated either admiration or complete terror, possibly both. Team leader, Wu Jin stared at the forbidden gate and tried not to think about all the ways he was about to die. The gate was bigger than anything he had ever seen. It hung in space like a black ring made of nightmares, easily large enough for a city to pass through. Strange energy crackled around its edges, and the space inside the ring showed nothing but darkness so complete it seemed to eat light. Final systems check, he said into his helmet radio. All green here, replied Specialist Yunhei from the ship behind him. Though I should mention that half our instruments are giving readings that shouldn't be possible. Define impossible, Wu Jin said. Well, according to the gravity detector, we're currently falling upward into yesterday. Sounds about right for this mission. The human exploration ship Pioneer's Dream hung in space a safe distance from the gate, surrounded by dozens of consortium observation vessels. Every major species in the galaxy had sent representatives to watch humanity either succeed or die. Spectacularly. Technician Yun Su's voice crackled over the radio. Boss, I'm getting some weird readings from the gate itself. It's like it's trying to talk to us. Talk to us how? The energy patterns keep changing. It's almost like Morse code, but in colors instead of beeps. Wu Jin looked at the gate again. Now that Hyun Su mentioned it, the crackling energy did seem to be pulsing in a pattern. Red, blue, green, white, then back to red. Can you translate it? Working on it, Hyun Su said. But I think it's saying welcome. Behind them, the consortium observers were having what appeared to be the alien equivalent of a panic attack. Radio chatter filled with urgent messages in dozens of different languages, all expressing the same basic idea. The humans needed to turn back immediately. Gate team leader, this is Consortium Command, came a voice that sounded like grinding metal. You must abort the mission. The gate is exhibiting behavior we have never recorded before. Wu Jin keyed his radio to the consortium frequency. What kind of behavior? It appears to be responding to your presence. This has never happened with previous expeditions. Is that good or bad? We do not know. That is why you must retreat. Wu Jin looked at his team. They were floating in space around him in their modified suits, looking like a group of tourists about to visit the galaxy's most dangerous theme park. Team vote, he said on the private channel. The aliens think we should abort. I didn't come all this way to turn around now, said Yunhei. The gate is talking to us, added Hyunsu. That's got to be a good sign, right? Plus, I want to see what's on the other side, said the fourth team member, Navigator Bo Young. This is literally the most interesting thing that has ever happened. Wu Jin grinned inside his helmet. Consortium Command, this is Gate Team Leader. We're going in. Humans, please reconsider. No species has ever returned from beyond that threshold. Then we'll be the first. Wu Jin activated his suit thrusters and began moving toward the gate. Behind him, his three teammates followed without hesitation. As they approached the black ring, the energy patterns became more intense. Colors that had no names danced around. The edges and the darkness in the center began to shift and move like living shadow. Passing through the threshold in 3, 2, 1. The universe turned inside out. Wu Jin found himself floating in a space that couldn't exist. The walls were made of crystallized music, and gravity seemed to flow like water in streams of blue light. In the distance, structures that looked like buildings grew and changed shape as he watched, as if they were alive. Is everyone okay? He called out. Define okay, Yunhei replied. Her voice sounded strange, like it was coming from several directions at once. I'm alive, but I think I can taste colors now. I can see sounds, added Hyunsu. And according to my instruments, we're currently in 3 different dimensions at the same time. Bo Young's voice was full of wonder. Guys, look around. Really look. Wu Jin turned his attention to their surroundings. The space beyond the gate was vast beyond understanding. Structures that defied physics floated in impossible arrangements. Bridges made of solid light connected platforms that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. In the center of it all, something massive pulsed with its own inner light. It's beautiful, Yunhai whispered. It's impossible, Hyunsu corrected. Both can be true, Bo Young said. They began to explore, moving carefully through the strange environment. The structures around them seemed to respond to their presence, shifting and changing as they passed. Colors became brighter, sounds became visible, and the very air seemed to hum with welcome. This is Wu Jin to Pioneer's Dream, he called on the radio, but got only static in response. Communications are down, Hyunsu reported, but that might be because we're technically existing in 17 different dimensions right now. 17? I thought you said 3. It keeps changing. As they moved deeper into the structure, they began to encounter things that had once belonged to other species. The remains of Veltar crystal technology floated like frozen music. Pieces of Nephilim, energy equipment drifted past them like glowing ghosts. The twisted metal fragments of Apex machines formed strange sculptures in the corners. But unlike the reports had suggested, these weren't the remains of destroyed expeditions. They were more like offerings. Look at this, Yunhei called out. She was examining a piece of Veltar equipment that had been somehow transformed into something beautiful and artistic. It's not destroyed. It's been changed into something better. Same over here, Hyunsu said. He was studying what had once been an Apex scanning device. Now it looked like a flower made of living metal, and it was singing softly to itself. Don't think the other species died here, Bo Young said slowly. I think they became something else. As if summoned by her words, shapes began to move in the distance. At first, they looked like the aliens the humans had met, but as they came closer, it became clear that they had been transformed. The Veltar. Beings moved like living music. The Nephilim flowed like conscious energy. The Apex machines had become graceful dancers of metal and light, and they all seemed happy. Welcome, said a voice that came from everywhere at once. We have been waiting for you. Wu Jin looked at his teammates. They were floating in an impossible space, surrounded by transformed aliens, in a place that shouldn't exist. Yunhai summed up the situation perfectly. Well, this is definitely not what I expected. Is it better or worse? Asked Hyunsu. She considered the question while watching a group of transformed consortium beings dance through the air around them, their movements creating music and light. Honestly, it's kind of awesome. Bo Young laughed. Only humans would find a cosmic horror. Zone awesome. Speaking of which, Wu Jin said, shouldn't we be going insane right about now? According to the reports, this place drives people crazy. The voice from everywhere spoke again, and this time it sounded amused. Perhaps, but your species seems to have a different relationship with madness than others. How so? Wu Jin asked. Other species fear the impossible. You embrace it. Other species seek to understand before they act. You act first and figure it out later. Other species see transformation as death. You see it as adventure. Around them, the transformed beings of the consortium began to gather, forming a welcoming circle. The question is, the voice continued, are you ready to see what lies at the center of all things? Wu Jin looked at his team one more time. They were grinning like children on the world's best playground. Lead the way, he said. Mission Commander Sung Min followed the transformed beings deeper into the heart of the impossible structure. His team moved behind him like explorers in a dream, their eyes wide with wonder at sights that should have driven them insane. The center of the nexus was a sphere of pure light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Around it, reality bent and twisted in ways that made Sung Min's brain hurt if he thought about it too much. So he stopped thinking and just accepted it. This is where it all began, said the voice that came from everywhere. As they approached the light, the voice became clearer, more focused. It wasn't coming from the transformed aliens around them, it was coming from the light itself. What began? Asked Specialist Yun Hai. Understanding, growth, evolution. The test that your galaxy has been taking for 50,000 years. Technician Hyun Soo was scanning the light sphere with his instruments. The readings made no sense, but he had stopped expecting sense hours ago. It's alive, he reported. Not just alive, it's aware, and it's old, really old. We are the architects, the voice said, and suddenly Sung Min could see them, not with his eyes, but with something deeper. They were beings of pure thought and possibility, creatures so advanced that they existed as living concepts rather than physical forms. You created the gates? Navigator Bo Young asked. We created many things. The gates were just the beginning. We seeded the galaxy with life, guided evolution, watched civilizations rise and fall. But we reached a point where we could go no further alone. The light pulsed brighter, and images began to form around them. Sung Min saw the birth of stars, the first stirrings of life on countless worlds, the rise of the great civilizations that now made up the consortium. Every species that achieved spaceflight was given the same test, the architect continued. They were shown the forbidden gate and invited to discover what lay beyond. Each species that entered became part of something greater. The transformed beings we saw, Yun Hai said. They're not prisoners or victims. They are graduates. They passed the first level of the test. They learned to let go of their rigid thinking, to accept transformation, to become more than they were. Hyun Soo looked confused, but the reports said they died or went insane. From the perspective of their original species, they did. They ceased to be Veltar or Nephilim or Apex. They became something new. Their old selves saw this as death because they could not imagine existence beyond their current form. Bo Young was studying the transformed beings with new understanding. They're happier now, aren't they? They are free, the architect said. Free from the limitations of flesh and metal and crystal. Free to explore possibilities their original forms could never have conceived. So what's the second level? Sung Min asked. The light pulsed, and suddenly they were no longer in the nexus. They stood on a vast platform that stretched to the horizon in all directions. Above them, the sky showed not stars but entire galaxies spinning slowly in a cosmic dance. The second test is choice, the architect said. Your species has proven something unprecedented. You entered the nexus not with fear or rigid purpose, but with joy and curiosity. You accepted the impossible not as a problem to solve, but as an experience to enjoy. Around them, more platforms became visible. Each one held representatives from the transformed species, but now Sung Min could see they were not the same beings who had entered the gate. They had become something greater while still remaining themselves. The consortium species saw transformation as an ending, the architect continued. They mourned their lost expeditions and declared the gate forbidden. But humans saw their friends transform and said, that looks interesting. Yun Hai laughed. We're not exactly normal. No, you are unprecedented. Which brings us to the choice. The architect's presence became more focused, more intense. Your galaxy stands at a crossroads. The current consortium has reached the limits of its growth. They have become cautious, rigid, afraid of change. They maintain order, but prevent evolution. And you want us to change that? Sungmin asked. We want to offer you the chance to lead that change. Not as conquerors, but as teachers. Show the galaxy what your species has shown us here, that the unknown is not something to fear, but something to celebrate. Hyun-soo was looking around at the transformed beings. What would happen to them? To the current consortium? They would have the same choice you do now. Remain as they are, safe but limited. Or accept transformation and become part of something greater than any single species could achieve. Bo Young stepped forward. What exactly are you asking us to do? The architect's answer came not in words, but in images. Sungmin saw human ships spreading across the galaxy, not as invaders, but as explorers. He saw humans working with alien species, showing them new ways to think, new ways to grow. He saw the rigid structures of the consortium slowly giving way to something more flexible, more alive. The gates are just the beginning, the architect said. Beyond this galaxy are others. Beyond those galaxies are dimensions of existence you cannot yet imagine. The universe is vast and full of wonders, but it requires guides who can face the unknown with joy rather than fear. And you think we're those guides? Sungmin asked. You entered the most dangerous place in known space, and your immediate reaction was to start exploring and making jokes. Yes, we think you might be suitable. The team looked at each other. This was not what they had expected when they volunteered for a suicide mission through an alien portal. There is one condition, the architect added. This choice must be made, not just by your team, but by your entire species. Humanity must decide together what kind of future it wants. How do we explain this to Earth? Yunhai asked. They'll think we've lost our minds. Have you? The architect asked, sounding amused. The team considered this question seriously. Probably, Hyun-soo admitted, but in a good way. Then you understand the first lesson we hope to teach, the architect said. Sometimes the best solutions require a little madness. Suddenly they were back in their ship, floating in normal space near the forbidden gate. But everything had changed. The gate was no longer dark and forbidding. It pulsed, with warm, welcoming light, and their ship's communications were working again. Mission team to Pioneer's Dream, Sungmin called. We're coming home. Sungmin, came Commander Yeon Seo's voice, full of relief. Are you all right? You've been gone for 3 days. 3 days? Bo Young checked her chronometer. We were only gone for a few hours. Time works differently in there, Yoonhae said. Add it to the list of impossible things that are apparently normal now. As their ship turned toward home, Sungmin looked back at the gate one final time. The transformed beings were visible now, waving goodbye like old friends. So, Hyun-soo said, how do we tell Earth that we've been offered the job of leading the galaxy? Sungmin grinned. Very carefully, and with lots of coffee. Behind them, the forbidden gate pulsed with patient light, waiting for humanity's answer. The consortium watched from their observation ships, unaware that the balance of galactic power had just shifted to a species that thought dangerous cosmic tests were entertaining. Admiral Tae-kyung received the mission report 3 hours later. After reading it twice, he poured himself a drink and began planning humanity's expansion to the stars. The universe, he realized, was about to become a much more interesting place.